Trump on the appeals court ruling. Any comment on that?
Thank you very much. Judge Engoron has done a terrible disservice to the state of New York. What he's done is terrible. Businesses are fleeing, and you see that. We just released a statement on Ruth. Businesses are fleeing, and crime is flourishing all over the state, and what he's done is such a disservice and should never be allowed to happen again. New York State is being battered by his decision. So I greatly respect the decision of the appellate division, and I'll post either $175 million in cash or bonds or security or whatever is necessary very quickly within the 10 days. And I thank the appellate division for acting quickly. But Judge Engoron is a disgrace to this country, and this should not be allowed to happen. Thank you very much.
Would you accept foreign money to pay the bond?
And you hear a shouted question, and we had shown you a little bit of that. Trump on Truth Social, and this was just moments after the decision. This is the 5th time in this case that he has been overturned, a record. His credibility and that of Letitia James has been shattered. We will abide by the decision of the appellate division and post either a bond, equivalent securities, or cash. This also shows how ridiculous and outrageous Engoron's original decision was at $450 million. I did nothing wrong, and New York should never be put in a position like this again. So that was Truth Social, and there's more now because he's posted a couple times. I won't go on too long, but Judge Engoron has refused to obey the decision of the appellate division relative of the statute of limitations. This is a confrontation between a judge and those that rule above him, a very bad situation in which to place New York State and the rule of law. Kayleigh.
Yeah, I mean, look, we have gone over and over, and I've said it like I'm beating a dead horse, that these are unprecedented cases. We have put up time and time again Associated Press analysis, New York Times analysis, presumably analyses that liberals would respect, right? Well, what do we see in each of these unprecedented cases? They continue to be overturned either in whole or in part. The Supreme Court with the Maine ballot case, the Supreme Court Colorado ballot case, now you have this judgment being reduced. I agree with Jonathan Turley, it should be 0, but nevertheless being reduced. You go down to Georgia, Fani Willis, the RICO charges being thrown out. You see constant overreach. And I encourage viewers, ask yourself, why? Why do you see constant overreach? The only answer you can get to is these are partisan left-wing actors in the form of Letitia James and Alvin Bragg, and the list goes on.
So, Sean, I had kind of a different epiphany during the last hour. I mean, it's an election year for an incumbent president, so I get it. It's politics. But what are these other people being promised? I mean, you've got Letitia James, Attorney General of New York, you would say arguably with some things to lose. She's out there gabbing. I mean, gonna get Trump. I mean, who does that? That's so low class, but you know what it is? It's not fair. It's not fair in our legal and justice system to behave that way.
It's a really good point. It's not fair, but Letitia James is playing to her audience, right? You have a left-wing political base in New York City, and they love. I mean, she won on the fact that she promised to go after Donald Trump, right? That was the political message, and she
but she's still talking.
But she delivered on that promise, and I think New Yorkers still love it, right? But to the point of the $175 million, again, Donald Trump, that's a win for him. It's still a massive amount of money. What they've done is they've preserved Donald Trump's right to appeal by lowering the bond to a number that he can actually meet. But what they're really doing here is they're preserving the Democrat Party. Because if Letitia James was out seizing Donald Trump's properties, it's over for Democrats. I think most Americans see the war that's been waged on Donald Trump, whether it's in Georgia or in New York or in Florida, in Washington, D.C. They look at this and go, to Kelly's point, this is way too much. Who does this to the lead presidential candidate? And by the way, of charges we've never seen, victims that aren't there. What the hell are you doing?
But the $175 million bond doesn't absolve them from being that hungry, that thirsty.
No,
it doesn't wipe it away.
No, it doesn't. But I think what it does, the war on Trump is just clouded a little bit, right? Because he's going to be able to meet the bond, and he's going to be able to appeal, and it's going to forestall the inevitable, which, again, it's going to be a massive payout that Donald Trump is going to have to make in a city that's more about politics than business.
Emily, we showed a little while ago the big Trump Tower sign on Fifth Avenue. It's iconic. What does this mean now that James won't be able to rip down the letters of Trump Tower?
At least for a moment, I feel like there's I don't know, a slight, maybe restored faith, just temporarily in the justice system, or at least that it's not as tainted as this whole thing has sort of appeared from the beginning. I'd like to carry your ball just a couple yards further, and that's the war on Trump. And I want to point out how deeply it extends, how much people in power bend and sway to what they perceive as pressure from those left libs. And I want to talk about the Chubb CEO. So according to Trump organizations, their attorneys, Chubb was going to potentially underwrite the second bond for them, right? They would accept liquid assets, they would accept real property. Well, word got apparently to the brokers, the investors, and their customers. So cut to the Chubb CEO writing a letter to everyone, oh, I'm so sorry, right? The typical narrative, where once again, the uproar that ensued from them just being part of, as he said, the plumbing of the criminal justice system, i.e. he said, look, we don't play a part. If we put up bonds, like we are not rooting for the defendant. Essentially, you know, money has no color, money has no side type thing. But oh, lo and behold, he too pulled out because the pressure was too great. So what concerns me is that as we go again into the voting in November, just remember that the people in power are making these decisions because of that pressure, the war on Trump, but it's the people who have the power. Ultimately, it's us at the voting booth. Please vote that way.
Yeah, I mean, I said it earlier, Rebecca, people should be angry about the fact that this has been handled in such an unfair way.
Well, I keep coming back to this idea of, you know, you've got people who are maybe not necessarily sold on Donald Trump. They've been flagging in their support, but then you have this happen. And then all of a sudden, you're galvanizing even the most skeptical people who maybe have voted and supported President Trump previously, have gotten tired of all the drama, and they say, wait a second, this is about the rule of law. This is about laws being applied fairly and then the punishment fitting the crime. So I do national security policy, average American here, not a lawyer. So I wanted to know how unprecedented was this amount of money that he was expected to pay. Bitcoin fraudster Sam Bankman-Fried's bail was $250 million. Wow. Notorious Ponzi schemer Bernie Madoff's bail was initially set for $10 million. And these were people who had victims in their crimes.
Yeah.
So we know that this is because he's running for president, Donald Trump's running for president, and it really signals that as long as you don't go after the Democratic machine, you're not going to have a huge penalty.
It makes me think of New York City as somewhat a barrel of crabs. Like, who's going to make it out? They didn't want him to be the one who made it out. Right. They wanted to make it out. The Democrats wanted to be the ones on top. Letitia James, the Attorney General, who said she wanted to get Trump, her office has responded to the reduced bond. And here's the quote. Donald Trump is still facing accountability for his staggering fraud. The court has already found that he engaged in years of fraud to falsely inflate his net worth and unjustly enrich himself, his family, and his organization. The $464 million judgment, plus interest against Donald Trump and the other defendants still stands. In what world does it stand?
Well, not in Ruth Bader Ginsburg's world. It's a quote that she gave, again, a liberal icon. She said that that fines can be used to undermine liberties, chill the speech of political enemies, and as a form of retribution, which is exactly what's happening here. Massive fines to chill the speech of the lead presidential candidate. And Letitia James loves it. She has the power to use it, and she's exercising it. But the American people look at this and go, way too much, and they see right through the lawfare that's happening to Trump.
Just a couple of extra seconds. You worked with former Donald Trump. What is this day like for him today?
Well, I imagine it's not a day he ever thought or dreamed he'd have to go through. I mean, we knew that justice was stacked in one direction, unfortunately. But today, I think there's probably a little bit of celebration that there's a fair-minded judge at the appellate level. But nevertheless, he knows what he's up against. I do think politically, though, to your point, this has put a tailwind behind him. I saw some polling today that shows even with some convictions, the polling is starting to level out, even with a conviction. So a lot of this is baked in. I think a lot of people just want to be able to afford their houses and bring down the price of groceries, and that's what this election's about.
Donald Trump's not down. Listen, and again, he seems angry when he speaks, right? He's very serious, but he is in great spirits. He's out golfing. He's having a great time, socializing with friends. This is not bringing the man down at all,
That's
which
how
is
we're
remarkable.
different. If I were out golfing, my world would have come to an end.
Exactly.
I'm terrible at it.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.